Bless the righteous with favor and make us righteous. Make us righteous, Most High. 45 minutes, okay? No more than 45. Father, I thank you. Thank you for mercy, grace, and favor. Be exalted, my Redeemer. Hallelujah. Blessed be the King eternal, the Master who rules all in all. Hallelujah. Let everyone know Barbs Health Corner is live. I praise Yah for all of you this time, this season. I know it's been kind of cold and all that, but hallelujah to the only true and wise King. And because it's coming up for our feast and our festivals. And for those who are dealing with their different families during this time and this season, today is going to be something. First, before I get started, I just want to call out for my family in Ohio. I love my babies. I love my children in Ohio. Mwah, mwah. This is your Mima. Love you. And don't forget my young people. Let my young people not to forget. Tell your moms that I love you all here in Missouri. The ones, remember I told y'all about my babies are under the age of 12, under the age of 13. They let their parents know. We watch Barb every time she comes on. And don't forget to let your parents know this is something coming on. And I want you all to know so that you don't be caught up with this bacteria, food poisoning and all that, because you're going to be eating everybody else's food. And because you're going to be eating everybody else's food, you don't want to get caught up in that food poisoning, bacteria, and all that other kind of stuff. I want you all to stay healed, healthy, whole, and sound. How about that? Somebody thinks you're wonderful. It must be me or Ema. So today, family, yes, we're going to talk about using spices and herbs to reduce the risk of food poisoning. Let them know Barb is online. Barb is live and well, and let me hear your thumbs up if you like this one. This is going to be used really well this particular time and season. Now, we know because of the weather, we know because of the time of the season, I got this just for you this particular time because I knew you were going to need it. Sometimes moms always try to look for ahead of time and see what the babies need and what the young people need and all that. So we try to do that this time. So what we have today, now you know what? For those who say, Ema, you got rid of the weight and stuff like that at the top. Yes, I'm sorry, but I'll put it back on later. We might just do a little poster board on the waters and everything and put it to the side. So it'll be still here. And we'll just put our cameras on it every so often. How about that? Is that going to be good? Emma, I love you. But let's talk about some of the foods. First of all, you all know some of my favorites. Parsley. Remember they put parsley on, they used to put parsley on decorations, and you all used to say, oh, that's good little decorations, and take it off and don't even eat it. That parsley was helping you all out. For sure. That's getting rid of bacteria, food poisoning, all that stuff. You know what? I just wanted you all to know all that is good and ready. So I just want you all to know that that's part of the ones for the parsley, because remember we talked about before how parsley does all that wonderful things. And don't forget, and I'm trying to look at my notes to make sure I don't let you all down when I tell you about this different stuff, because I don't want to forget about anything. Remember we had this list, and if you all look back at the previous classes, and we talked about parsley. So we talked about parsley and all the wonderful things that it does for the body. Remember we talked about that and how it's packed in vitamin K, vitamin E, D, A, and C, because C makes you happy. Remember I told you about that. I know you remember. So listen to this. It's also a good antibacterial, antifungal. It gets down into the microbes and it kills a lot of microbes. So when they put the parsley on your plate, eat it. Eat that parsley. And make sure, dip it in your lemon water, like other people do. How they dip it, rinse it off in the lemon water, and then they put it in their mouth and eat it. That lemon. Now, let's talk about that lemon. Remember we said when you get up in the morning, you can do that lemon water, and lemon water is good. So it kills that bacteria, it pushes everything on out. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with those different things because I know you all already looked at the previous classes where we talked about lemon and lime and all those things. And shout out to my unidentified Shebrew. I know you out there, girl. So if I miss her, she in the chat. She out there. She out there? Yes, ma'am. I want you to know, if you see something that I did not have on this board, girl, you shout out because I've been looking for you. Listen, another thing. Remember, they used to take cilantro is another thing they would take out and they would rinse off. If they didn't have the parsley, they used cilantro and they push it in there, and that's another microbiome. What's my baby say? I know you all hear me. I know I can hear you. I can hear you all saying, come on, my children. My babies are under the age of 12. It kills infections and microbiological things. You know what I'm trying to say. So, family, I know you're there. And what is my favorite thing another favorite thing that I know I keep in my cabinet all the time, and I keep in my mouth. I didn't put it in my mouth today because I got something new to tell you all about. This new little pod that you can put in your mouth for the teeth and the gums and all of that. But we talked about that, but we're going to come back to that again, and I'm going to come with that. So, family, what do we talk about? What we keep in our mouths? Cloves. Remember, it keeps, and when you do cloves, you can do like a little clove tea and put a little honey and, well, you know, we use agave in our house and a little bit of lemon. It is so good for you. And it gets rid of bacteria, microbiome, that micro stuff that kills. Now, you know what? You have to, and then for that reason, we have to know that. Now, family, that's another thing that kills. Also, rosemary. Do you know you can take rosemary when you're feeling a little stomach ache and a little worries in your stomach? You know what you can do? You take that rosemary, put a little bit in a little bit of rosemary, boil it a little bit, and rinse your mouth out with it. Oh, it works wonderful. Kills bacteria. And it gets rid of that little stuff, little bad bugs in the gut. So that's another thing. And you don't need a whole lot, just a little bit. Remember we said a little bit goes a long way. Don't forget, family. And let's talk about oregano. Oregano is one of those herbs, and you know, that's so powerful and you can cook with it. But there's something, some people say, well, I go and when I get a cold, I'll do all of oregano and it gets rid of that, and for this, all that. Well, why don't you just make a little bit of tea, drink a little bit from time to time, or mix it in with your food. You know, listeners sometimes don't like hear I'm talking. Well, somebody in our house does not like when I put all that greens, as he called greens, in my food. So I put it in mine, and I just let his go with a few things. Well, we're not going to tell what a few things we put in his food that helped him. But it's all good. It's right. It's all good, family. So we are just going to go with just that. You know, I love you all. I must love you to tell you all this, and he's right here today. But it's all good. But you can use a little oregano, family, with a little bit of water. You know what you can do? If you like me and you like the taste of oregano, some say it burns, spicy, and it burns in your mouth, just a little bit. But you could take a little bit, put in a little bit of water, and change the flavor of it, but you still get at the same time a little lime, a little oregano, and a little agave or honey, however way you want to sweeten it. And it's really, really good. And just drink it down, sip on a little bit, and it gets rid of that bacteria in the gut. And it helps out, and it helps it gets rid of a lot of the food poisoning that's out there. Or you can just sprinkle a little, now check what we do. It's basil. You know what we do with basil? A lot of times, and people don't realize this, but when we make our salads and stuff like that, you could take basil and it's like staphylococcus, staph infection. Put a little bit of basil on your salad. After you rinse it off really good, you wash it really good, and you put a little basil in it, and it gets rid of the staph infections in the vegetables and stuff like that. And then you can make sure you have it. In the summertime, we love basil because we grow basil in the backyard and we put it in our salads, the fresh. But in the wintertime, and you don't have it, you could take a little bit of dried basil, which is what we do a lot of times. We dry it and put it up. And so you could take a little bit of the basil and the leaves, the dry leaves, and put it in your salads. And it helps with a lot of staph infections in the gut, also in the body. So you can help with that. Some people cook in the Old Testament, they used to cook with a lot of basil. And a lot of other countries. Yeah, they put it in tomato sauce. Mr. uses, when he makes his tomato sauce, he uses a lot of basil and cloves in his tomato sauce. I can't tell you all other stuff because that's his recipe. But basil, and guess what? Basil gets rid of a gas and upset stomach. Did you know that? Well, in the summertime when we eat, some people, when they do have a little gas in the stomach and whatever, and they really don't notice it because when we were away in Texas and we were using a lot of basil, and it keeps the children from being gaseous. And a lot of upset stomach. It keeps with that. It helps with that. And by the way, again, shout out to my babies in Ohio. Your Mima love you. But they my babies, and they put a little basil. She put a little basil in their food, and she was like, Mima, bay leaves. I didn't put that down. She said she gave them a little bay leaf water. Made a little bay leaf tea and put little bay leaves in their water and stuff like that, let them drink it. And it got rid of some of the fragrance. They call it fragrant, different, it made it more fragrant when they released the extra air out of their tummies. And it made it more flavorful. Let's put it that way. And also you can drink it and it disassembles the gas in the stomach, another thing. And that's what basil does. And so I got basil twice. I meant bay leaves. Bay leaves. That's what bay leaves does. Because you can burn bay leaves. Don't forget, you can burn the bay leaves in the room, family. And when you burn the bay leaves in the room, it gets rid of bad breath in the room, whatever kind of odors that are in the room, and it helps you rest as well because it kills the bacteria and fungus, in fact, and mold and stuff like that when you burn it. And it does the same thing when you make the tea. Isn't that wonderful how the Creator did that? He's good, and He thinks about us all the time, and I love Him for it. I'm so thankful that we have a Creator that loves us and saw us and saw us afar off and took care of that issues. So another thing, babies, do you know you can do peppercorn? Peppercorn, grind it fresh. And peppercorn actually gets rid of bacteria and fungus too. So when you use black pepper, you can use a black pepper, family. And when you use that black pepper and grind it in your food, guess what? It helps relieve indigestion. I'm just showing you all just some things that you could do during the season that gets rid of when the bad bacteria goes into the intestine and it tries to make you sick, and what you can do before you even eat it and after you eat it. So you can use a lot of times, some time ago when I started eating a lot of salt, I began to add pepper and lemon. Now lemons, we already talked about lemons and how lemons get rid of bacteria and fungus and all that stuff in the body, and it also flows. Remember we said lemon water, but we use a lot of lemons and a lot of black pepper, and lemons taste almost like salt. It's a salt substitute if you want to use that, if we'll. This is what we do a lot of times in our house, other than Himalayan salt, and other than if we don't want to use Himalayan salt, we'll use lemons to make a little salty. Limes are really good, and it brings out the flavor and right on down the line. But it's also, there's a reason for that, because it kills bacteria, indigestion, upset stomachs, and right on down the line. How about that? The Creator did that for us. How about just like ginger? Now, I'm crossing these things out because I want you all to know, just like ginger. Ginger, when women are pregnant, they do the ginger water, and ginger water really calms the stomach down. All that bacteria, all that other stuff going, and it pushes out the toxins, allowing you to release some of those gases, gets rid of the upset stomach, but not just for pregnant women, for everybody. And it gets rid of the pain and the cramps and all that in the intestines, and it is even good for women that are going through their menses for that time of the month. How about that? Our Yah is an awesome king. Now I know, say with me, he is the master of all and in all and is favorable for all and toward all. All the angels, if the angels bow down before him and say he is master and his Lord, what about us? We can do that, his creation. And he's made a way of escape for every situation and every circumstance if we obey. I love him for that. So ginger does that. And just like garlic, you know, I don't know whether Mr. did his garlic this morning, but every morning he normally does his garlic. I said Mr. again, didn't I? I'm sorry. Some people in our household do garlic in the morning, and they chop up the garlic and they just throw it down and have a chaser, and they're good. And it's good for bacteria. Enzymes is good for enzyme cleansing. And right on down the line. Family, do you know garlic is so good for the body that it just, I just want you, it's a natural antiseptic among a plethora of other things. It's a natural antiseptic. Today we're talking about natural antiseptics, killing bacteria, things that are good for staphylococcus, things that are good for staph infections, and right on down the line. So you don't have to be sick this time of the year. You can walk in healing, health, wholeness, and soundness. You have a question for me, love?
No, you're fine. I'm just trying to make sure I stay on you sometimes.
Yeah, I do. So these things are really good for you, babies. So listen, another thing we can do is thyme, and then I'm gonna get to sage too. But thyme, remember I told y'all over the couple weeks ago that we drink thyme tea, and thyme is good for colds or all around here. That thyme gets rid of that cold. All of this up in here, other than we talked about myrrh, other than myrrh and frankincense, which is boswellia. We say boswellia is good. It's the same as frankincense. They just try to cheat y'all. So, let's just say it's, manufacturing or how they want to get their money. Because if you use boswellia, and I'm telling secrets, here we go. Boswellia and frankincense, if you use boswellia, it's a certain amount of money, and then you use frankincense, it's another type of money. It changes because of the name. Just want you all to be aware of that. But trying to talk and tell you all something so fast. Let me drink some of my cinnamon tea. So, family, it is so good for you. That thyme is like, it will bust up the bust. And I hope I'm using those words right. Bust up the bus.
Oh, you said
bus. And what it does, it's just a good antibacterial, antifungal. If you drink thyme tea and you got a cold and you drink that thyme tea and drink it hot, baby, it will clear up some stuff all up in here, because thyme tea is really fantabulous for the body. I just want you all to know about that. That thyme tea is just good for you. And you all go back on my earlier classes, episodes, and when we talked about thyme and we wrote all that stuff down, so you all will be aware of what thyme does. But do this. If you drink your thyme tea before you go out, and drink it kind of strong. And remember, I brought some, but you all didn't get a chance to taste it. But I brought some to the class, and that's one of the favorites around here. It opens up the respiratory system. It opens all the respiratory. It helps the lungs. It cleanses lungs. It does a job. You all go back on the class and see about what we talked about when we talked about thyme. But thyme is one of those things that really will bust up the bus. And then, you know what, sage, you all know what, if you just some say, Imam's scared of sage. Don't be scared of sage, because that gives you, let me tell you something. Here the mama, y'all want the mama in me to come out. That sage will bust, it's a beast. Was that a better word?
Yes, ma'am.
Is a beast. That sage is an antibacterial, antiseptic. If you do sage, let me tell you something. It's like antiseptic. Oh, antiseptic, antibacterial, antifungal. If you try this, family. And I used to tell people all the time years ago about cinnamon. Okay, about cinnamon and how they could take cinnamon and cloves and they can boil some in water and let it go all throughout the house and just boil it, and how it kills bacteria and fungus. And we're going to talk a little bit more about cinnamon in a few moments. But how it cures, it let it go through the house, and it smells so wonderful. It smells like what they used to say the holiday season. This holiday.
So you do the same thing with the sage, you just put some of that in the pot and boil it, you don't necessarily have to burn it?
Yes, you can do both.
Okay.
You can do one or the other. And you take that sage and it goes through that cinnamon and that clove, and you can boil it, and it goes to the house and it smells good on top of that. And then you take that and and I used to tell them they can burn it or boil it and put it in the basement when you have issues with mold and bacteria and stuff like that. And you can put it in there and let it go throughout the room, and it gets rid of bacteria and stuff like that. I used to tell people years ago about they can put it in their basement and let it just go through the basement. And it's a continuous thing, but it works. It really works because it's like an antibacterial, antifungal, antiseptic, and it's good for the internal parts of the body. And that's just sage. You can burn it, of course, and when you burn it, it does the same thing. It goes through real fast. And a lot of people, it smokes up the house. We know that it smokes, and it's not. Don't be superstitious. Now, repeat after me. Ema, we will not be superstitious. Superstitious is a big word, and I want you to define that word and write on down the line. And I know it's okay. I still love you. Much love. But it works, and the Bible talks about sage. But anyway, it's another story for another time. Okay, family? Not only, and then remember this, I want to go back to thyme. Thyme actually relaxes the respiratory muscles. And that's what makes it so much better. Not only does it kill bacteria and fungus, but it relaxes the muscles that become inflamed in the throat, in the body. And guess what? I just so happened to brought, not only did I do cinnamon today, but I also brought some thyme tea. And you say, Ema, you drinking cinnamon and thyme, girl? I just brought it just an example so I can tell you all I had some today. Sea lime. Remember what we said about how to spell sea lime? C-E-Y-L-O-N. The leaves. Remember we said leaves of the field are good for the healing of nations? So it's the sea lime leaves, the ones you want. You know what? And I'm not sponsoring anybody or anything like that. Remember we talked about a while back about how in the Sahara, in the desert, the Arabians, Arab, whatever you want to call them, from Arabia, they would do, and a lot of others in the Sahara, what they do is drink Ceylon cinnamon, and it will keep their bodies, and they drink it hot, and it would keep their bodies normal temperature. You would think that if you drink Ceylon, a tea in the hot desert will make you hotter. But no, it just balanced the body and it kept them cool. How about that? How about that for the Father? How wonderful is He for doing all that stuff for us? But listen, He knows our bodies. He created them. So why would He not provide for us a way of escape for every situation, every circumstance? So family, that thyme, that sage, that ginger, and remember, listen family, dill it treats, not only does it treat, and I was telling this to my family the other day, when their babies had colic, and the reason why I put this dill down, because I do dill in a lot in my foods, okay? Whenever, regardless of what I have, I always, because I like the taste. It's me. It's an Ema thing. And I hope you adapt that too. Listen, this dill is a beast. You can give a little bit of dill and make it up the way you want it for the babies. It's good, palatable for the babies. And you can give it because it's good for colic. Can you believe that? It's good for colic? Colic. It's Dill is good for colic. It's good for heartburn. It's good. You know why it's good for as a colic? Because it's good for heartburn for the babies. They can't tell you that they have heartburn. They can't tell you the different things are going on in their bodies. But it's good for that, and it helps pass the gas out of their bodies. Did I say gas? Bodily gas. Air coming out of the body that causes cramps and stuff. So the same thing. Y'all know with the babies. And they can't tell you that they have all this thing going on. So the dill is wonderful for that. And you put it on a, look, and especially if they have that going through that gumming, with their teeth trying to come through, and it keeps down the fever and the inflammation from them. You could put, do this, make that little tea, get a clean towel, make sure it's clean. You can even boil it with a little bit of vinegar. Boil it, make sure it's clean. A little bit of vinegar, a little bit of Epsom, baking soda. Boil it a little bit, make sure all the bacteria is out, and then turn around and rinse it really, really well with distilled water. And then turn around and put that dill in it and make it to taste and put it in the freezer. And then put it in their mouth and let them chew on that. Baby, they will thank the creator that you are their mom and daddy. They will, because it gets rid of gas, it helps their gums, it helps their trying to come in teeth. They will have stronger teeth right on down the line. It's just wonderful. That's dill. That's dill. That little bitty, you know what a little bit of dill looks like? You know, the little bitty fine green parts, and it comes in and it waves, and we grew dill this year in the backyard. And it just waves in the wind and right on down the line and all of that. So we just love that kind of thing. So remember, dill is our friend. Ooh, dill is our friend. Family, let's talk about another thing real quickly. And I want you all to know. Now, we already know about turmeric, and I'm trying to be real quick. So you all take a picture of this board. And we're going to come back next week and tell you more about these things. We already talked about pepper. We talked about, fennel, real quick. We're on time. Fennel. Remember I told y'all, women, when you're going through your menses, the fennel is what makes me happy. Fennel will get rid of the cramps. It helps the body. It does all these wonderful things for the body. Now, remember we talked about the, how the fennel is, how the fennel was grown in the ancient women's gardens, in the Hebrew ancient gardens. When women would go through the gardens, you all go back and look at the posts, some of the posts where we used to post about all the ancient garden herbs of the garden. And how these gardens were so fantabulous that during the times of that month, women would just stroll through and take whatever they needed to. And there were people out there that would make teas for them and do all these wonderful things. But anyway, that's another time for another story. You all go back and check those posts out. But fennel was one of the things. And they would take the fennel seeds and they would chew it. I keep it in my purse all the time. And I know you all see that. Like I keep fennel, cloves. And what is our other new, well, it's not really new. We got something that we brought back. What are those little seeds, mister, that we talked about that we always keep for our breath? Cardamom. Cardamom. Let me say this to you. Cardamom, let me put it right here. Cardamom. You all look over my handwriting. Cardamom is one of those things that they put in the seeds. A lot of people from other countries use cardamom not only for bad breath, and they would take the cardamom and the leaves, and they do a lot of things with the leaves and everything, and it's good for the breath, but it's also good for the digestion. Oh, it's good for the teeth, the gums, the tongue, right on down the line. It's almost like that licorice thing. And oh, by the way, don't forget, I didn't put licorice down there either. The licorice root. Now, be careful with the licorice root, because if those people that are having issues with high blood pressure or low blood pressure or some in that way, you want to be very watchful in it. But it is a beast in itself. Don't overdo it. But that licorice root, baby, will rock your world. It's good for, and I'm going to scratch out these two, and it will do the job. Mr. likes cardamom because he likes to suck on the pods. And then when the pods are getting so soft, when he don't want it, and then he goes back and eats the seeds out of it. Oh, did I tell this to again? Oh, I'm sorry. He likes to eat them. Right, just like you do sunflower seeds. Right. He keeps it. Don't show him. He just put it back in the Don't show him.
Oh,
and so he does it just like sunflower seeds. And it keeps your breath so fresh, and it's just wonderful. So between cloves and cardamom, and I had forgotten, I left cardamom in the cabinet. Like I told one of my loves, Sister Z. She know who her is. I love that girl, Sister Z. And so I support her. And I said, you know what? I have to go back in my pantry. There's a lot of times I use a lot of spices, and sometimes I've forgotten about certain spices. So when people ask me different questions and stuff like that, sometimes I have to go back in my spices and say, now wait a minute, I have that. Where is it? And I go back because there's such a plethora of dynamics that the Father has given us, that He is really, the leaves of the field are good for the healing of the nations. All praise to the Most High. He provides all things, and you can do it reverse. Sometimes you do cloves, sometimes you do cardamom. In this time of the year, we do a lot of cloves because when it helps with the body. Same way as for fennel. Fennel, ladies, don't forget this time of the month you're going through, it reduces, not only does it reduce the fennel, not only helps with bad breath, fennel does, but it also does body odor. You can grind it up to a powder and you can make little teas and stuff like that. It is good for body odors. Some people use the oils or the extract when they clean their bodies, in other countries I'm talking about. In other countries. And guess what? Fennel is also used when the people with a little fennel oil or fennel extract, they put a drop in their water when they're cleaning their babies, and it gets rid of bacteria and fungus and stuff like that. Just a drop in their bath water. That's all it's needed. Just a drop. And it just makes them smell so good. And I know it makes us feel good. And it makes their muscles. Remember we talked about fennel before when we said how it does for the muscles and the tissues and the bacteria. It just makes the muscles, when you're going through those menses, it just makes you feel so good because it's full of vitamin K, and which is what we need. And it affects the brain in a happy way, and it makes you happy and all that good stuff. And I love it. Don't forget. So we're going to come back and we talk about cinnamon. One last thing I want to talk about too before we get out of here, and that's mint. Mint during this time, they put mint in your drinks, and this time I added a little bit of mint. I made some thyme tea for someone recently, and I added a little bit of peppermint in there, and it boosts the gut. And so it got rid of, pushed a lot of toxins out. And not only did it put it, you could give peppermint or mint. Years ago, my nana, when we would have hiccups and stuff like that, and they would say it's just growing and all that, she would give us peppermint. And peppermint takes away that hiccups real fast. Children having hiccups, give them just we used to put a drop, not even a drop of peppermint on the tongue of the babies. They go, they go, all that kind of stuff that babies do. But it took away their hiccups. All it needs just a dab, not even a dab. And and I could see their faces now. But it took the hiccups away. And it does that good thing. Not only is it good for the bacteria in the guts and stuff like that, it's good for that. And I'm talking real fast. Don't forget your cayenne pepper, because it's also good for bacteria in the gut. Cayenne pepper is wonderful for the gut. Now we've got to get ready to get out of here, family. I do love you too much. Just a few things, and we'll come back next week and we'll finish telling you some good things about how not to get food poisoning during this time. Don't forget fenugreek. Fenugreek is one of those wonderful things, and I know to some people they say, "Oh, Ima, I put a little fenugreek in my hair." Yes, you put it in here, but also fenugreek reminds you of oatmeal. It has that smell like oatmeal. Mr. doesn't like that smell. Oh, I'm sorry. But fenugreek is wonderful for the body. Will you just put a little bit of fenugreek on in your oatmeal in the morning with your oatmeal, and it helps with that gut along with oatmeal. I forgot to tell you all about that. But we'll come back next week. Cumin, you can make a little paste. Don't forget the paste. You can make a little paste with a little agave, a little bit of a cumin, mix it in, make it like a thick little paste, and take it like a peel. And it gets rid of bacteria and fungus, and turmeric is really good. And all these things are very effective against the microbiomes in the body. This Ema thinks you're wonderful. I love you too much. And I try my best not to be so long-winded. There's so many things out there that I hope you are during this year. For food poisoning, toxins, growing bacteria in the gut, in the body. It gets rid of bacteria in the body. Just remember what we said? Our pantries is our medicine, it's our medicine cabinet. Remember we said that? Our pantries are our medicine cabinet. It may not be as potent as it was when our grandparents were alive and they used all these things, but it still has its place, and it's still as potent as before. With prayer, the Creator, I love one of the scriptures says, heal me and I shall be healed. Save me and I shall be saved. And that's what we do when we take our herbs, we take our spices. Heal me and I shall be healed. Save me and I shall be saved. My hope is in you, O eternal Creator, Master of all. This is your Ema saying that I love you too much. Believe me when I tell you. Don't let anybody tell you any different. That your Ema does not love you. The Creator thinks you're wonderful, and I agree with him. Blessings on your week. Bye.